Hello, everyone. I'm joined by Infekted from Team Nightmare to talk about the upcoming major at Stockholm. Firstly, Infekted, I wanted to ask you how you're getting on at your boot camp. You're in Sunderland, which is maybe not the most glamorous place in the UK, but how have you found it so far?
I mean, it's been really cool just like walking around the city. It definitely feels like we're in the UK, if that makes sense. Like everything I've seen about it, like the city and just like the atmosphere, it definitely feels like like UK-ish, I guess. And like the facility we're staying at, British Esports, it's all really nice. Like the room here too, like I don't know if I can like it's just like really nice setups and stuff. So it's all really nice.
Oh yeah, it's like the British Esports Association, which I think is like a government. I don't think it's like government run, but it's government funded.
Oh,
For
really? I
the
didn't
for
even know
Britain.
that.
Yeah, so
Oh.
it's kind of like it's quite an official organization as far as the UK goes. There's a lot of stuff with like their university team and stuff. Is this your first time boot camping as well, or did you have one?
So we had one for EWC, but it was in Miami. So it wasn't in Korea. We just did it to just be with each other. But I mean, this is the first time like I've boot camp like outside of the country, so it's really cool.
And what do you think the biggest difference or the biggest benefit has been from this boot camp for you and the team?
Just the scrim blocks because we're just able to scrim like both the KR teams like every single day since we've been here, and they are really good. They are really
Yeah,
good, and like I feel like we're learning a lot too because like if you just play them over and over and over again, you'll eventually like start like closely getting up to their level. I mean, we definitely aren't, but like like you just get
you're
better.
making your way there. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we had Zero on Uncoachable, he was pretty confident that you were the hardest working team in North America. Do you feel you've managed to keep that going into the boot camp?
I know we took like a 3 day break right before we came to boot camp just because we all felt a little burnt out. But other than that, I still think we are because every single day since we've been here, we've either double blocked or triple blocked, and we're voting constantly. Like we're working very hard. We probably are, but also like probably the other NA teams are also working just as hard. But we still have our good work ethic.
And then I have to ask, because word on the street is Lethal has run into some problems with his visa for the event. Is this true and that you're going to be without Lethal for the event?
Um, yeah. Apparently, like his visa just didn't like got denied. That's all I know.
Oh, you would have thought it was like Turkey to Sweden. You would have thought it would have been not too hard. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't know honestly, but it sucks. I
does
wanted to see that guy.
does it affect you much from a gameplay perspective in the sense that how much playtime was Lethal really getting before this against Seeker compared to now?
So I think it's more like a team atmosphere because that guy is just super funny, and it's like great to just like
Yeah.
have him with us. But I think Seeker was gonna play for the most part. I think Lethal's a little like tapped out of like competitive. He doesn't. I don't think he wants to play like as much as like Seeker does, honestly. So yeah.
And then before we get into the meat of the meta and Stockholm and the LAN and all of this, I wanted to reflect back on stage four a little bit. The stage four in many ways was a success for you in terms of how close you pushed Toronto and consistently, both in upper bracket and grand final. Why do you think it is that your team does so well in these type of metas?
I think a lot of these like metas just focus heavily on a lot of ults, especially like rush metas are just always like big ult centric, I guess. And also that just like that meta specifically in stage four just happened to be like all of our best heroes. Like I said before, like I think Orisa is like one of my best heroes. Zero's on Genji, Seeker's on Cass. Like all those heroes are really good for us. I think CJ was the best Juno in NA, like by far. And I mean Ollie is that guy is so good on Brig too. That guy is so smart. I think like the hero pool just worked out really well for us. And then just rush comps are always like good for us too, because I think we're very like ult macro heavy type of team.
I wanted to ask as well, because it does feel, wow, getting so close to Toronto is big progress so consistently, especially compared to how NA teams have historically done against Toronto. But you keep falling at the final hurdle. Do you think this is a problem for your team in some sort of like an anti-clutch factor when you get to that sort of final map?
Probably. I don't really have an explanation for it. We definitely choked the grand finals for sure. We should have really won that map because that was like an Orisa map and we were beating them in the mirror like almost the whole time. I think the other two times like we went map five versus them and lost, I think it was just more on like the map picks and stuff like that. But maybe we do have an anti-clutch factor, but I mean I still think our like especially our DPS are pretty clutch. So maybe it's just like on and off. I don't really
Does
have
it
a
does it feel any different in the team atmosphere? Now, like a final map compared to the rest of the final or anything like that?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. I didn't feel anything different. Maybe other people did, but it didn't feel like that off.
Yeah, I think it's probably also fair to say that again, it's like all these maps where you've lost in this sort of clutch final map have also been against very strong opposition as well. So it's not like you're losing to a big underdog or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about the meta as well. For a lot of people, obviously you've been scrimming all the teams, also at boot camps as well. You've got to experience everything pretty much. But for people at home, they've not really seen anything in quite a while. You know, they've been limited to Collegiate when there's a lot of Mauga, the Aurora Cup in China when there's a lot of Zarya. So what's the meta? What should people expect for Stockholm?
Yeah, the meta is probably going to be the same thing as Collegiate, most likely. The Mauga, Reaper, Echo, Juno, Brig. Honestly, like I think we only found out about it like 4 days ago. And I think other teams only found about it like this week as well. Maybe like 6 or 5 days ago. And I'm gonna be honest. I found out because I was playing ranked, and there's a lot of Reaper one tricks in ranked, and I just couldn't be Reaper. And then we scrimmed, and then we couldn't be Reaper also. So we're like, okay, that character is broken. And I think Mauga works really well with Reaper, and Mauga's like a really just one of the best tanks right now for sure.
Well, there must be some kind of like spiritual buff or something by having Flack, the owner of the org, Mr. Reaper himself. So there must be maybe things are lining up for you.
We gotta do good in a Reaper meta. Like maybe sub him in.
Sub him in, bring him in. Yeah, give him lethal spot. If you're in a pickle, give the man himself in.
That'd be so funny. We just like we're just against SSG, like map 3, 1-1, put Flack in on Reaper, just 5-man death blossoms every fight. That would be awesome.
And then I want to ask about your role in this meta, because obviously very confident last time around when it was an Orisa meta, one of your strongest heroes. How do you find the Mauga? How do you feel your power level is against all the other tanks you're playing against?
I think like definitely the start of this meta, I was struggling a bit just because I think I'm confident on Mauga, but it's definitely not like one of like my Winston or Orisa. I think I'm more of like a job player on Mauga. But like the more we scrimmed on it, the more I felt a lot more confident. Like even like the scrims that we played today, I actually think I did like really good. So I think just like with these next upcoming scrims that we have, I think I'll like me specifically, I'll just start playing a lot better on Mauga. I think like our whole team has been improving a lot on this meta too, really fast.
Talked a lot about the DPS picks. We're seeing a bit of variety, but I think you're right in the sense that most teams seem to be leaning towards this Reaper Echo in most, if not all, situations. How do you think your DPS stack up on those type of roles?
Yeah, so I think because this meta is so like macro and like team play heavy, I think it's just really all about teamwork. And since we've played with each other for a long time, like this meta suits us. Seeker is honestly like a really smart player, so I think Reaper suits him. And then Zero's been doing well on Echo and scrims too, even though like I haven't seen his Echo that much like prior, but like seeing his Echo now, like I think his Echo is honestly really good. So I think specifically for my DPS, like this meta is good. And then also like instead of Echo, there's like a little bit of Genji too on some maps, and I mean I think that's Zero's best hero, so I think for both Zero and Seeker should be pretty comfortable.
So the nature of a lot of these Mauga metas as well is it inevitably becomes a heavy macro meta, lots of ultimates, all about the ult trades. Where do you think the most important things are for a team to excel in? Like where are series won and lost in these type of matchups?
I think the big thing is just ult value. Like if a team just throws away his ults and then the other team can just snowball with their ults, it's honestly it really is just ult value. Which team is getting kills with their ults? Which team is winning fights with their ults? Like, oh, we won this fight with Rally and with just Rally, and now we can use Juno, and they don't have anything. I don't know what I'm saying, bro. But basically, like, dude, I'm so brain fried after today. But
you have to almost play multiple fights, right? Like
yeah.
if you lose a fight, but it's one ult for 3 ults, you've won, and then you get like you set yourself up for these good situations.
Yeah. Or if it's like they have like 4 ults and you have like only like Blade or something, you just like inted with Blade and just try to get out 3, and like there's just like a bunch of situations, but it's basically just like which ults do you have and what do they have, and like how do I win this fight without throwing away the other fights at the same time, kinda. At least that's the way I think about it in my head.
Yeah, I think a lot of the series we're going to see at Stockholm, they're going to be ultimately made more by the decisions teams make, or decided by the decisions team make, rather than maybe like an individual carrying doing something crazy.
Yeah.
And then for your role specifically on Mauga, what do you think? You said you've been playing and feel like you've improved on it. What do you think you've improved on the most? What are the important things for a good Mauga player to do well?
I think like at the start of playing this comp, I definitely played a lot like a more aggressive than I should have been, and I think like really good Maugas know how to not take as much damage as the other Mauga, and then also landing their stomps. I think landing like stomp is like one of the biggest things on Mauga because if you just land on the other Mauga or squishy, if you land on a squishy, you kill them in my opinion. If you land on the Mauga, then you should just end up winning the trade most of the time. So yeah, I think those are the two. Just not taking as much damage and just landing the stomp.
And then I wanted to ask a little bit, I guess, how the scrims have been going, just in terms of coming into this event. You probably felt you were in a pretty good position. We're getting close to Toronto. How does that feel after these sort of like boot camp weeks of scrims? Does it feel like you're closer to maybe teams like Toronto and some of the top?
Yeah, so like at the start of the scrims, it definitely felt rough because we just like near the start of the boot camp, everybody was just trying to figure out kind of what the meta was. It wasn't like everybody was just playing this one comp. And then when we tried to play like our like honestly like an Orisa comp into it, like we were just having trouble. We're like, okay, we have to switch to this. And then just trying to learn that. Like it was a little bit rough, a little bit shaky at the start, but after playing with it for a few days, I can fairly say like I'm really confident going into Stockholm for sure with this meta.
And I have to ask now, you've had a chance to play a lot more of the EMEA teams since you've come over. Where do you think the power level is between those two regions, between Europe and America?
So we haven't scrimmed SSG since we played them first. Neither or Twisted Minds. I don't know why we haven't scrimmed Twisted Minds, but we just haven't. But we scrimmed Ends today, and we did really well versus them. So I don't know how the power levels are, but I do think like the two KR teams are just above everyone else, in my opinion, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and then like I don't know, maybe like us in Toronto and like maybe Ents honestly are like on or sorry, like SSG and us in Toronto are probably all in a tier break, and then it's another tier break, and then like the other teams. Except I actually have heard.
Go
Sorry,
on, go
that
on.
NRG are playing this like Queen like Brig Genji venture comp, and they're like doing good. So that might be interesting, but we haven't scrimmed them in a
Okay.
while. But
Well, it sounds
yeah,
like they might well be the only team sort of bringing a bit of a curveball to this tournament then.
yeah.
Your first game obviously is against SSG, who ostensibly you've not scrimmed, so you've not seen them. Obviously, SSG very well known for being very good in these type of metas as well. How are your expectations going into that first game?
Yeah, so I think they're gonna probably be like the hardest team that we have to play against, other than the KR teams, just because this meta I think suits them very well. But if we're able to beat them, I think we can go really far in the tournament. And if we don't end up beating them, like again, I think that's one of like the best teams in this tournament, and I think we'll still go far in losers. So like either way, I'm fairly confident. And against them, I think it'll be really close since it's like this meta suits both of our teams.
Is there any team you're particularly hoping to run into at some point in the tournament?
Mm, I would like to say NRG honestly, just because we
Yeah.
haven't really gone against each other in OWCS yet, and I think that'd be like a really fun match to play. Like the goal for me at least is I just want to place higher than the EMEA teams and like show that like NA is better.
And was that one because obviously for a lot of the teams, maybe like the Crazy Raccoon type tier, obviously their goal is always just like first or nothing type thing. But you come in from a slightly lower position than that. Is that how far would you need to get in the tournament for you to sort of treat that as that was actually quite successful? I'm happy with that result.
I think top four would be pretty good for us. I think I'd be satisfied with top four honestly. I think around there.
And then out of all the teams you've played, who has been the scariest team, like the hardest team to play against?
Mm, it like fluctuates between Crazy Raccoons and Falcons. I think Crazy Raccoons has the edge right now, but like it honestly changes day to day. And I think they're also just trying to figure like stuff out as well.
It feels like quite often in these type of metas, it becomes quite theory heavy essentially. So if one team figures something out, they sort of spike ahead in power for the day and stuff like that. So it seems to be like there's a lot of things that can change the power level of teams very quickly in these type of metas, I think.
Yeah.
And then if everything was to go right and you were to win the tournament, who do you think would end up being the MVP for your team? Like in this type of meta, in this type of comp, who would be the person to step up to sort of push you over the edge?
Hmm. I think honestly Zira. I think he's really underrated. I think and also like Echo is probably like the character in this comp that like has the most carry potential. So I trust Zira to carry us for sure.
And then if I had to ask you, who do you think will win the tournament? You can't say yourselves, of course. If you had to place a bet, who would be your go-to team to win it this time?
Probably Crazy Raccoons. That's definitely the safe
Yeah.
answer, but yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Infekted. I appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck for you and the team for Stockholm, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you.